Some instruments do a little bit of everything. Others double down on doing just one thing brilliantly. The precision bass, very much the latter. Just a shame that I've sold this one. This is Gear Profile. Hello, my name is Marc Gallagher and welcome to Gear Profile, where I take a look at a piece of gear that I have and love, I tell its story, why it speaks to me, and of course, give it a little play. Today we're taking a look at my Fender Mexican Precision Bass. This is a bit of a different Gear Profile video because I just sold this bass, so I wanted to say farewell to it in a video, and maybe take a look at the reasons why I'm selling it. By 2011, when I was 14, I wanted to be in a band. Having already learned to play the guitar and being what I considered at the time as a capable singer, the next step to filling out potential band roles was learning to play bass. My logic was sound, the notes were the same as guitar, just an octave lower, minus 2 strings. The parts were mostly just root notes and arpeggios, so as a guitarist, there wasn't that much of a learning curve. For Christmas, my dad got me an Encore Precision Bass copy in Sunburst, and I enjoyed learning the basics on that. Basics. Anyway, I had a very fine and functional bass that helped me get through my rock school grades. I'm still certified grade 5. I can't remember any specific reason for wanting to upgrade, but I've told before of how my mother influenced me to buy things from a good make. Fender are obviously one of the biggest names in bass, having pretty much invented the bass guitar. On October 13th, 2013, I made the annual trip to the Cheshire Guitar Show in Crewe. I would go every year just to ogle at the nice guitars and other instruments and get inspired. It made for a great day out for a then 16-year-old me. There was a shop from Lytham St Anne's called the Bass Guitar Shop, and they had a stall at the fair, and I came across this Fender Precision Bass in Arctic White. I was in a bind because I wanted to buy a Boss RC50 looper. I'd wanted it for ages, but I could only afford one thing, be it the looper or the bass. I remember posting on Facebook asking for advice, and I spent about an hour weighing up the two different options, and finally with some help from my mum, I managed to get the bass for £260. £260. I still have the paperwork. Like, it's here. £260 in cash for a genuine Fender Precision Bass. Like, that's insane. The case has a little keyring for the Bass Guitar Shop. So yeah, it's, what a steal that is. £260 for a great Fender, and the value for money was impeccable. So fast forward to now. This has been my favourite bass for almost 12 years, but recently I had a niggle. You know the one I'm talking about. I've talked about this one before, but it was that little voice in the back of my head that said, get an American one, you need an American one, it's more real. And I just couldn't escape that thought. When trying out USA-made jazz basses at a music shop, I noticed a definite improvement in the tone clarity when A-B'd with my Mexican jazz bass. Even though jazz and P basses are different beasts, it reaffirmed to me that Mexican versus USA difference, and it fed this itch that I couldn't shake. I listed the bass for sale online. I set my price for about half of what I would pay for a used USA Fender bass, and I waited. If it never sold, I was fine with that. I was perfectly content with the value that I got out of this bass. But if it sold, I would immediately go and buy a USA-made P bass to replace it and fill that precision hole in my life. Wait, that sounded a bit wrong. Anyway. This is a 2008 Fender Mexican Standard Precision Bass in white. I'm sure the listing at the store was described as Olympic white due to the slightly warmer hue, but the serial number information says it's a colder Arctic white. Maybe the colours just changed a little over the last 15-ish years with this poly finish. It has an older body, maple neck with a rosewood fingerboard, white dot fretboard markers, and in true P-bass form it's only got one pickup, one volume, one tone knob. This bass has one job, and that job is to be bloody brilliant. I kept the bass in pretty good condition despite the gigs and sessions I would take it on. There was, however, a chip in the bottom that is not my fault. A friend of mine called Callum used to play bass in the band Hex, mostly playing an Epiphone Thunderbird. I lent the bass to him for a gig, he looked great doing so, until he handed it back to me and dropped it in Nantwich Town Square. He offered to pay for the damages, but I said no, because I like to think dings are a badge of honour. It's funny how some people scoffed at those dings, yet those same people would pay extra for, like, you know, custom shop relic jobs. But that's a different story for a different video. I don't have much of a frame of reference to compare this specific bass to others like it, but in terms of the P-bass thing, I love it. Unlike a jazz bass, which is more versatile due to having 2 pickups, this has only one job, and that job is to be great, and that's why I prefer P-basses overall. It's very thumpy, and as someone who likes hot pickups, the split coil generally packs a punch. I usually like to play with the volume and tone knobs on full, and there's a clunky mid-range to the tone. But when you roll the volume back a touch, you get this really nice smooth bass tone. Because it goes to ground, the way that sort of bleeds out. I really like that, what that does, even though it's not necessarily how I would always play all the time. So yeah, once again, full volume on. Volume down a bit. When I've compared Mexican pickups to USA ones, like in my Telecaster video or when I AB'd my jazz bass at music stores, I find the former to be a bit woolly and fluffy sounding, lacking in clarity. I think the same could be said about this bass. Yes, a pickup swap would make all the difference, but it would not quell the little niggle I have of, you need to get an American one, it's better, it's more real. I wouldn't be able to quell that niggle if I swapped out the pickups, even though that is a perfectly functional way to get the most out of this specific bass. This was my favourite bass when I got it nearly 12 years ago. I'd never seen a bass this good be this cheap, and I was amazed at that value with how it played and the wonder of getting a genuine Fender just like a couple of years into my playing. I think it's a testament to the idea of buy as good as you can as early as you can, because had I traded it from my Encore to another replica and then to a Squier and then something else, I'd have spent so much more money in the long run instead of just buying the one bass and never needing to upgrade it. Like, if I kept this bass forever, I wouldn't mind at all, because it still sounds and feels great and is still my favourite bass. Even if I was to change a couple of things down the line, maybe a grease bucket, maybe changing pickups, you know, this is still my favourite one to play, and I would not have minded keeping hold of this forever. However, now that I'm selling this on to get a USA bass, hopefully I'll never need to buy another P bass again. What are my thoughts on the incoming bass? I'm not sure yet. I'll get it in a few days, and I'll have to tell you in a future video about my thoughts on that. And I guess the last thing is just to say goodbye. This Fender P bass is my favourite bass. This is one that was my one really good bass that I would have kept had I had to sell everything else in that kind of collection. I had this for 12 years. It plays, sounds, feels great, and as excited as I am to get this newer, better thing, I am going to be sad to see this one go. So, thank you. Thanks for the music. My name is Marc Gallagher, and this has been Gear Profile. Thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any thoughts down in the comments. You can also follow me on your favourite social media at Marc Gallagher Music, and consider supporting me on Patreon. For now, I'm Marc Gallagher. Like it if you want, share if you feel compelled to, and follow me on places. I'll see you down the road.